I'm here with artist Cat Kerr. And Cat, you have brought something that looks like it's covered in verdigris and that it's ancient. And you're telling me that's super easy to do. It's just paint.
Super fast and easy to do and fun.
And it's wearable, so
Absolutely.
you can show your art off to people, which I always like.
That's right.
So how do we get started?
We'll start by actually cutting an 8-inch piece of wire. And normally you would take this wire and shape it to your wrist, but it's a bangle. You don't have to be too specific about it. So I'll just take whatever I have lying around, a can, a soup can, whatever.
I was going to say, who needs a bracelet mandrel when you've got a soup can or a container of some kind?
It is important to actually work harden the metal so that it will
But you're not
retain its
using a
shape.
metal hammer. You're using a rawhide hammer.
That's
Why
right.
is that?
I don't want to damage the metal in any way. So this actually will allow me to harden it without leaving any blemishes or anything.
And it doesn't really
metal.
flatten the metal into like a flat piece, right? It makes it just shape it.
That's right. That's right. And so once I have it round, a nice round shape, I'm going to work on that focal. And I'm using a 2-part epoxy clay. I have 1 part right here all ready to go. And I do like to wear gloves when I'm using it.
Because it protects your hands from getting dirty, and you don't want the chemicals to leach into your hands.
That's right, and it's also pretty sticky.
Oh.
So it sticks everywhere. So what I like to do is I will just wear the gloves. I'll mix it together, make sure that it's thoroughly mixed. I mix it for about 2 minutes actually.
Okay.
And then I let it sit and rest for a while because that will actually remove some of the tackiness. It's a little easier to work with.
And it doesn't harden up so that you can't use it?
You have a long time to work with this stuff, which is so great. You can go cook dinner and come back and it's
well,
ready.
maybe you can.
Yeah.
My cooking, it could be days before you ever see me again.
So this one has been sitting around and I'm ready to use it. And I just have a regular mold. Any molds work. And I'm going to take that wire again and I'm going to press a little piece of the mixed up clay. I don't need a lot, okay? I can just press it in and then I'll take the wire and I'll press it in. Let's get that filled up just a little bit, as long as it's not overfilled.
Because you don't want it overfilled because then it would be uncomfortable on your wrist.
That's right. And what I like to do is I'll just press that wire directly onto the clay because it does have this adhesive
I love,
quality.
by the way, that you are not clamping to anything in particular. You're just kind of using the clamps to hold the wire upright.
That's right. That's right. And then I'll take a smaller piece of that and I'll press it right on top because that wire is going to get stuck.
So it's kind of the equivalent as if you had drilled a hole through a bead or something like that. It's just that you're building the bead sort of both sides of the hole.
That's right. That's right. And I normally like to let it sit overnight. Here's another one that I made, and when it pops out, it's nice and hard.
And that's just permanently on there.
It's permanently on there, and if I do happen to get a little bit of extra clay on there, I'll just take an emery board and just file it away and smooth it out. And so now I'm ready to paint it.
Cool.
And I'll add some color to it by just... I have a wet brush. I'm using an acrylic paint.
Okay.
I'm actually painting the front and the back.
Because it's jewelry, I always think you want to finish all the sides. Now, I noticed you got a little bit of paint onto the metal. Does it matter?
It doesn't matter at all because even if I forget about it and I notice it later on, you can easily scrape it off because it's metal. So it's not too bad if you get some on there. So this one's already dry. You can see that I got some on the metal and I can just scrape it off. That's fine.
And who cares anyway? Because guess what copper does when it patinas?
Oh, that's
it
right.
turns that kind of beautiful green color.
That's right. And so
okay, you're ruining it now.
I am because I want to make it a little grungy.
Okay.
So again, I'm using a watered brush and I'm just adding some of this dark brown color. And I'll do the front and the back. And I'll let it sit for a minute, and then I'll wipe some of it away. And I'm kind of left with this grungy look.
Oh yeah, because the brown paint sinks into the crevices, and when you wipe it, you're only taking it away from the top.
That's right. And so I end up with something like this. And it still needs maybe a little sparkle. So I'll finish it with just a little bit of gold, and I'll just hit the raised areas of the gold, and I'll let that dry.
You're gilding it, basically.
Yeah. Yeah,
Very
absolutely.
cool.
And so I finished the bangle by just taking some 2mm wire, leather cording. I wrap it on both sides and then I just tie a knot.
And you've really matched that color to what kind of verdigris would look like on copper.
Yeah, and but there's so many options. I mean, so many paint colors that you
I know
want to choose
I want to
from.
use all the colors.
Yeah.
That's always the problem. And if we look at some of the finished bangles that you brought, they're absolutely gorgeous. And I love the pendant that you brought, which also has a similar sort of antique and aged feeling. And can you talk to me a little bit? I know you said we don't just have to use store-bought molds, we can actually make our own.
Right. I mean, this is an old curtain hook, and I just kind of fell in love with the design. So I created a mold using a two-part mold putty, and I filled it again with the epoxy clay. And I ended up painting it the same way, and I use it as a bookmark. This is a shell that I found on the beach. I made a mold out of it. Instead of adding wire, I added a ring shank.
And it's
so
a
now
lot
I can
more
wear
hardy,
it
I was gonna say, than an actual shell.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So you can do tons of different things.
Super fun, Kat. Thanks so much.
Thank you.